Hello, hello. It's been a while since I played around with Unreal Engine, so I'm back at Unreal Engine doing some interesting stuff. Basically, I found there was a thing that I was trying to do for a while, uh, for some months, that I was thinking about doing like control Unreal Engine using a code editor. So basically, you would give um, commands and you would play the game with code basically. And uh, and this was in my mind for some time, and then I found out in Real.js recently and was like, okay, let's give it a go. Let's see how far I can go with the knowledge that I have, with the examples that are online, with the wiki that are available to everyone. There is a wiki on Unreal.js. And let me tell you, Unreal.js is basically a wrapper. It's not a wrapper. Let me say it uses V8 from JavaScript. It interprets JavaScript and then executes those commands into the Unreal Engine. It's a way more complex than what I can try to explain you. But yeah, if you go on Unreal.js on GitHub, or if you go on the plugins of the marketplace for Unreal Engine, you're gonna find it, and you can read more about it. Yeah, so basically, what I tried to achieve was a code editor that I can play the game with the editor. So no more talk, and let's see the real juice here. So playing, yeah. So here you go. Basically, what we have here is a browser. Okay, so this is a browser from Unreal Engine. The S web browser is it's a web browser instance because I'm using Slate here. Uh, I believe that I used Slate because I couldn't bind the U object using the UMG web browser widget. So I had to go with Slate. I believe that was the reason why I went with Slate. Um, so, and this is a plain HTML file with using a library to make it prettier. I'm using Code Mirror. It's also available online. You can search it. I'm gonna put the link on the description. And yeah, so this is an HTML that is here. Let me show you my HTML. Where is my HTML? It's here. So this is my HTML. I'm using a CSS from CodeMirror. I'm using a style sheet to make it prettier. It's a style sheet from CodeMirror. I'm using the JavaScript library, CodeMirror. Then I'm using the mode JavaScript because I'm using JavaScript as code as a language. So I have some style to make it nicey, more prettier to occupy the full weight. And here I'm doing an instance of CodeMirror using the API, using some options, and yeah, using a refresh and focus. I was trying to use this refresh and focus to make it like so the cursor will like be focused on the points on the editor. And yeah, that's the editor part, and I have a button here on Slate to run this code basically. If we do so, if I do this run, doesn't nothing happens, okay? Because it's running this function, but the function is not being called by anyone. So if I call the function, yeah, it's working. So it's being it's using the output device. It's a function, JavaScript output device, I believe, and it communicates with the Unreal Engine output log, and we can see it. Console log, it throws immediately to this log, this window. Yeah, so this is a simple hello everyone, simple hello worlds function, but we can do stuff more interesting here. Let me drop some examples that I was playing around. I can do this. Let's make my actor. So I'm getting the pawn, okay? And this pawn, it's from the Unreal Engine itself. It's not a pawn from created on Unreal.js. Let me say. So this is a pawn that's on the third person map. It's the from the blueprint. It's let me find it. Third person blueprints. I'm using the BP third person character as default. So yeah, so I'm getting the pawn, and after getting the pawn, I'm making a tick function, and then on process on the next tick, I'm gonna call the function again. So basically, what I'm instructing the Unreal Engine is to add a movement input on every tick with this value and with a forward vector, so to move forward. And let's try it. And here we go. It's running, right? This is nice. Yeah, we can now interact with Unreal Engine using plain JavaScript, right? So first I was like, okay, this is nice. Now what can I do? What can I do more here? And I was like, I was trying to do more stuff with this, but the API it's not so clear. You have to read it through the API and try to understand how to work with it. So it takes some time to understand. Now let's do my pawn jump. And here you go, it's jumping on every tick. And now let me tell you, one issue that I was having is that this function, this tick function, was already linked to the Unreal Engine. I cannot undo this unless I stop the game, of course. I cannot undo this. At least I don't know how to do it. Because now I would like to stop jumping and start walking, you know? But if I do this, like run, it just links a new tick function because it's doing an evaluate. It calls the eval on JavaScript, which basically runs the JavaScript into the engine. So if I cannot, at least I don't know how to clear like previously instructions to the engine. Now I'm jumping, and now if I do this, let me copy again, add a new movement to the pawn. Now it's jumping and walking. Yeah, this is okay, but it's working, right? It's working, but I would like to do more with this, to have more control on it. And I don't know how to do it. Maybe it's possible, but I have to understand how to do it. Basically, I have to learn because I'm sure I'm not taking credits from Unreal.js. I believe Unreal.js is a real big thing. It's really nice that you can control Unreal Engine with JavaScript. I would just like to know, like, to have more information about it. Yeah, I know that basically you need to take time to understand how to use it. There is a wiki, there is examples, and yeah, you can go from there. Okay, so enough of talk. You already see what is being done here. Now I'm gonna show you how I achieved. It took me like some days to do this because I was like getting into the stuff, reading examples, trying to understand how it works, and finally I managed to put it working. So I believe that someone out there maybe is having trouble with this. So I decided to show you how I've managed to do it. So let's get in, let's get into this. So where do we start? Let's start from here. Let's start from here. my project, so I have a C++ project, okay? And I have a function on my game mode which is called initialize. Just take notes of that, okay? Initialize. I'm gonna go through these after some time. So I have a function initialize on my game mode, and here I'm just getting the font for the button. This doesn't matter. So I have the initialize function, and yeah, let's go to the JavaScript part, okay? So Unreal.js is a plugin. It's a plugin. I have it installed here, so it's activated. I have the Unreal.js plugin, and now what I did was on my game mode, I have a JavaScript component. Okay, this is from the plugin itself. You added the JavaScript component, and then you write here the script source file, basically the JavaScript file that you want to run when the game starts. Because the game mode it starts like right when you start the game, so the JavaScript it's run also at the same time basically. And now I'm gonna show you what's inside this JavaScript file. So on this JavaScript file, um, it's quite small, so 50 lines of code, and basically what I have here, I am overriding a blueprint, and this blueprint is called override because I name it like this. And I'm gonna show you this blueprint on Unreal Engine, third person override. So this blueprint is quite easy. Everything, I don't have anything more here. It's empty as you can see. The only thing that I have on my blueprint is this function B, which has an input and an output. The input goes straight to the output, okay? The return null. So this is it. I had to do this blueprint. This is basically a stub because for some reason I'm gonna tell you about this later on when we get to that part. But basically the reason was that when I was binding the U objects, the functions was not being detected by the JavaScript. The functions from the exposed U objects, binded U object was not there. So I had to extend the blueprint with that function, and then the Ceph context of the browser, the Chromium browser, has access to my function. So I guess we are okay here, right? So I have a blueprint with a function B, return null. Okay. And now after this, what I'm doing here, I'm extending that blueprint. Okay. I use it to a variable. I assign the blueprint load to a variable because previous I was getting like nulls and stuff, so I was double checking the BP was initialized. And these you can check on the wiki and on the examples what to extend um, a class from the blueprint. And on their examples, I believe they have like this pp.generated class, and I was having issues, so I call a function generated class, and now it's working. And yeah, the constructor I copy from another example. I just leave it like this. It's always relevant. Actually, I don't know what this is doing. I'm sorry about that. And and here is the thing. This is one of the important part that you should understand. So this function v, it's basically a JavaScript function that I'm overriding from my blueprint. Okay, so it's getting an input, and when I get the input, I'm using an eval, which is actually on their code snippets. Like they have an example. Sorry, sorry, sorry. I was having dinner, so they have on their code snippet an eval, and basically this is how you evaluate a JavaScript function, and yeah. So I get the code that comes from the code editor, and then I evaluate using a self-callable function in JavaScript. Yeah. And then what do I have here? So if I'm running on the server, so because there is server and client, if I'm on the server part of the code, I want to create an instance of the override extended, this class, and the register on the world. And then, yeah, this is maybe there is a better way of doing this, but this is just a proof of concept. So I was trying to do achieve something, and yeah. So what I do here, I have a public variable and the public function. I assign the bridge, which is the instance from this override extended class, to this variable, which is my browser bridge. And then I call this function initialize. And then we have here clear, this is the main function should return a function. So this is how you do the cleanup, and I'm destroying the actor that I previously created. And here you have to pass it, as you already saw in another examples, you have to pass it here the name of the JavaScript file, basically. And now that you saw wow is my JavaScript file being used my component, let's go to the initialize function. Yeah, so there is more stuff here. So first, I'm checking that my browser bridge. This was just to check because I was doing some debug and stuff. Yeah, I was debugging with logs. Yeah, that's right. Um, and yeah, so I was checking if the browser bridge was being when I called initialize if it was defined or not. And yeah, for my I had some luck and it was defined, so this doesn't matter. And then I'm using the G engine to see if it's not null, because I use it later to assign my canvas, my slate canvas to the game viewport. And here is some slate way of doing the browser thing. The anchors, the auto size, the vertical box. Then I do the local browser inside the horizontal box. Then I have the button here. But yeah, first let's see what's happening here. This is just slate, okay, basically. But here is the thing. So here, let me tell. Let's get back a little. Let's get better a little, so you don't get lost. So I have my class, my JavaScript file that's being run from the game mode because I have a component, a JavaScript component here on my game mode that is linked to the JavaScript file, and then the JavaScript file runs. I create an instance of the override extended class, which comes from the blueprint. I assigned the my browser bridge. I call initialize. Okay. Okay. So now when I go to initialize, I I call the browser. I open the browser with the HTML file, and using the HTML file, basically it shows up that prettier code editor, and I mark it to don't show controls on the browser because I don't want to use it. And then this is the thing, this is important. So on my browser, I bind a new object so I can communicate between Unreal Engine and JavaScript basically, because these objects, my browser bridge, the functions that are marked as U functions are exposed to the JavaScript on this variable on window.ue.myBrowserBridge on lowercase. Then I create my local browser. This was just to have a child graph because I use child graphs here on the slate. And then I have the canvas. I create the canvas. I use the slot. I put anchors. Blah 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 blah. And then here, this is a part also important. So here we have a button. Okay. So we have a button which is the run button, and I pass it a local browser because this is a lambda. and it's like I was trying to use the on-clicked raw and on-clicked, but I was not having success. So I used on-clicked lambda. I pass here the because this is a new context, so I have to pass it the instance that I want to use, and I use my local browser, and then on my local browser I execute this JavaScript. Okay. So this is when I click the button. When I click the button, I'm gonna execute JavaScript on the local browser. And the JavaScript that I run it's this function B that it's on this U object that got exposed because I did the bind, and it's on indo.ue. So I call the function B with this value. This value is also important. This comes from it's basically the API from the code mirror. And let me tell you, this is JavaScript. JavaScript that is running on that web browser. So I have access to the variable that was created on the HTML, on the scope of the browser that is running. So this part here, here, my code mirror is a variable global to this scope. So I can just use it here, my code mirror, and I get the value because it's an API from the code mirror to get the text that is inside the code editor basically. And then since the functions from these ubind objects, they always return a promise, and then I'm using then logging blah blah blah. But this doesn't matter anymore, you know. This doesn't matter for the purpose because the important part is running my function B, because on my function B I have the eval, and using the eval I'm gonna evaluate the code that comes from the editor basically. Yeah, this is it. There is no more magic here. It seems pretty easy, but let me tell you, like, took me a while to get like everything, to understand what was really happening behind the scenes and to make everything working. So now here you go. You already, I hope this helped you in some way so you can proceed and you don't have the same issues that I had. So I'm sharing this with you. Yeah, there is nothing more that I would like to show you. Um, I hope you enjoy and show me what you build with this. If you came with this idea of building something using Unreal.js, I'll be pleased to know what you achieved on your side. Okay, so take care and stay safe. Bye bye.